Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette with a bunch of friends here, hoping that you stay curious with us today. Hello, everybody. Mitch Rothman beside me
see you,
here.
Mark.
Terry White.
Gently.
Very good to see you as
A
well.
kind of impromptu gathering here of us three influencers, if you will. Mitch, of course, is with Manned Space. You should be a Facebook member of his NASA Manned Space group. And Terry White is the garage mechanic. He was the orbital processing facility chief, whatever, right? What?
Manager, chief, orbiter processing
Yeah,
chief.
yeah. Broom crew, whatever you needed at the time there. And if you've been watching, you know what the broom crew is, thanks to Terry and following us here on Stay Curious. So, guys, we've all together today, and Marty Winkle's back. Hey, Marty. Hello. There's Flat Marty, but Marty's back in real life over here. We'll have to get a camera over there one day. But thank you, Marty, for doing this show remotely for a week while he was up in the New England area. And we had a good Shuttle Fest, a second meeting for Shuttle Fest 5, which is now going to be April 25th and 26th at the Cocoa Beach Hilton Hotel. So how you guys doing?
Doing good. Yep, just getting over carpal tunnel, so yeah.
Yeah, you had some carpal tunnel surgery
Yeah,
there, and
so I got a little nice scars on the hand, so
okay. Hope that helps.
Yeah.
As you do too.
Yeah.
And Mitch, you're fixing to go from Florida up to Colorado. You
Yeah,
live up in Grand Junction.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Summer up in Grand Junction, huh? With your lovely wife Paula.
She'll be here for at least until later in the summer, but I'm also going to be heading to Huntsville on your encouragement. On my drive out there, I'm going to stop over at Huntsville and
Absolutely. Well,
go
you'll
check
love
out
it. Take a
Apollo
lot of
16.
pictures.
Indeed.
Those of you that have been to Huntsville probably agree with me. The most beautiful command module displayed is Casper. Looks like it's in a jewel case in there. It's just magnificent how they displayed that. The other ones are magnificent to see too, but this is very special, I think. Hello, Mark Thel. He said he knows you guys. Dave Stange. It's a friends talking about the space show. That's right. And you know, guys, you've helped me and Marty promote this show now for a while, particularly you, Terry. It's really neat that a lot of people enjoy this hour as sort of a social hour to talk about space or current events.
Yeah, at the last Shuttle Fest, everybody that I was talking to says, "Oh, we follow you every time you're on the show. We look forward to seeing you." And some of them say it works out just fine, then it falls within their lunch hour overseas, so they get to watch it.
Yeah, it does. And Mitch, you found us, and you've got a monster Facebook page, about 17,000 people, right?
Yeah, it's over 17, almost 17.5, something like that. But and of course, you know, the question was asked of me on this show once before by Mark, my favorite guest on the show, and Terry, your name came up
Okay.
because you got some. You know, I'm more into the pre-shuttle days, so it's you know, you have such interesting stories, things I've never heard certainly, and you were right in there. So great storyteller.
Yes, from the beginning of the processing of the shuttle all the way to the end of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing what I've learned just sharing with Terry and so many of our great guests. We had Bob Granath last week, did a show on this Hangar S. Did you enjoy that?
Yes, I saw that one, sure.
Yeah.
Bob is another great storyteller. Gary Algier. Yeah, it's a place to come and hear interesting stories from people that were there, as they
We're
say.
going to have Nick Thomas on Monday, and Terry, and you're invited to come. We're going to have dinner with Nick Thomas tonight. And yeah, it's just great to be me some days when two new friends like this pop up, and it's just so fascinating, this thing called life. You know, you had a whole circle of friends 20 years ago. You did too. I did too. I hardly see any of those people. You're my circle of friends now.
Yep.
You know, isn't that kind of interesting?
Yeah, and it's odd how things go around because, you know, my son Travis, and he's been on the show before.
Yeah.
But the Army sent him, he's stationed in Poland, but they sent him to a class out at Patrick here for a week. So while he was here, part of it, they took him a tour of the Air Force the Space Force base and that, and he got to go to Hangar S as part of his tour. So
Oh, that's cool.
Have you been there?
not in quite a while, but
Okay.
yeah, that we used to do some projects in there. So
Well, we got Tommy Usiak in Pennsylvania saying good afternoon. Hello, Terry and Mitch. Peggy Holbert, your sister.
Yep.
She goes, I learned something new at every broadcast. Thank you, Peggy. Love you sharing all your stories and experiments. We appreciate that. Your lovely wife Patty and I sat next to each other during a good meal we had last week.
Yeah.
In there at the local, we'll have to take you there, Mitch. There's actually a New Orleans style
Okay.
restaurant downtown here that's pretty good. And you liked it. You're a New Orleans
yep,
gumbo fan. And it was
I
pretty
had the
good.
shrimp and grits.
Paradiso there. And Lynn Feather says hi. Boy, you're bringing them all in here from
Mhm,
West
yeah,
Virginia.
yeah.
Lynn is in there. And hello, Julie Clay. Julie was part of our Shuttle Fest committee meeting today. Thank you for your input, as was Connie McDaniel today. Can't wait to get debriefed by Connie about all the good things she learned at the meeting today. Marty's conducting the meeting. We're getting it all out there 11 months ahead of time, folks. And we'll be, the date to save is Friday at the museum, April 24th, and then the 25th and 26th at the Cocoa Beach Hilton. And we'll be outlaying all of that events that we've got planned. But, you know, one thing I don't have a problem with is attracting astronauts, guys, because we have 4 astronauts confirmed and at least another 7
That
in the
don't
wings
wanna
that
come.
want to be coming. So I don't know whether to turn this in like Space Fest where you had 20 astronauts or just kind of limit the number. We'll have to brainstorm about that. But we appreciate the astronauts loving this as much as well. There's Connie saying hello, and Doug Forrest. Connie's been such a valuable part, guys, of Shuttle Fest. She's been the key registration person and smiling for 5 years up there. I mean, that first person smiling at you, any event you come to, that gets you right away.
And then she correctly directs traffic.
Yeah, and then Connie said, so thank you, Connie. Neil 1030, the volume seems a little low, he says, Marty. And you can always crank that up a bunch there. Of course, we got one microphone here. We're trying to fix our volume situation and audio here. As we go along this year, we know some of you want to help us with buying some things. So Steve Jokums particularly has expressed an interest in helping us with our audio program. I've been talking all day. I had 2 meetings today. Excuse me. But let's crank it off here a little bit with some pictures. See where Marty's got them. Oh, there we are. There's the front of our museum. And we're fixing to maybe plant some prettier flowers out front there. But working on the curb appeal inside and out of our museum. Hello, Robert Law from Scotland. You all met Robert.
Yes.
And he had a different kilt for every day of the week there. That was a lot of fun. Robert, good evening to you up in Dundee, Scotland.
It was
Kinda-
nice meeting you at Shuttle Fest.
Yes, it was.
Absolutely. I'm going backwards there. Let's don't go backwards. Let's go forward here. Hope all of you moms had a nice Mother's Day yesterday here in America. And I love that mom's meatball there.
Yes.
So, on there. So, and we got some, big doings here. There's a picture from across the way at the Atlantis building. Probably taken at a distance, probably about 8 miles I am from there on here on the shores here at the Indian River up there. And Marty, you sent me a great story that if these guys hadn't showed up today, I'd probably be talking about. But there is some concerns finally of all the rocket launches that are happening. We had 93 last year.
Correct.
They're going to hit over that this year. And they being SpaceX mostly, and then bringing the the Starship, the big behemoth of Starship, its first stage, and the Starship second stage. So there comes some concerns about the environmental impact. Have you been reading those stories?
I've been reading some of them, but yeah.
Yeah, speak up, guys, a little bit there.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, there's been there is some concern about the wildlife being affected. Is this too many launches on the Space Coast? After all, Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge is the bulk of that area around Kennedy Space Center. Was that always something, Terry? Did
No,
it show
because
up?
because in the earlier days it was a new thing to them, but the wildlife that's out there now grew up with launches. You know, they grew up with the Army first launching here, but all the way through Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Apollo was really earth rattling, you know, and then through all the shuttle program, and now, yes, the frequency of the launches is more, but I don't see that wildlife getting upset about them. So
Well,
our wildlife numbers are up. You know, we've got a lot more bear out on the Space Center than we ever had before. So yeah,
there are migratory birds that come and go depending on their food source, not the rocket launches. So Marty's asking me to turn that a little bit that way. Okay, buddy. What if I hit this? Let me hit that. So
any better?
I pushed it. I'm adjusting the microphone here, fans, and I put it on the from the single source to the multiple source there. So let's see how that goes. There, I'll check it there, Marty.
So go back where you just were.
Okay, go back where I was. Right there. 1, 2, 3. So
Okay.
let's today we've got a couple dates, a couple things in space history today. One astronaut's birthday. We've got on this date, Chuck Yeager flew for the last time his Bell X-1 rocket research plane, the historic glamorous Glenna, which he broke the sound barrier in 1947. Well, on May 12th, 1950, he rode it for the last time. For RKO Motion Pictures movie Test Pilot, which was, and then this famous Bell X-1 was retired to the National Air and Space Museum at the Smithsonian in August 28, 1950. This orange beast 1 times. Wow. I didn't know that. It had that many flights on it. Chuck Yeager, what a man's man. He had several broken ribs from riding a horse 2 days before he got in this to break the sound barrier.
Yeah, he just didn't tell anybody.
He had broken ribs and didn't tell anybody. Wow. He died at age 97 in December 2020. So, did you ever meet or give a tour to the great Chuck Yeager?
I did not. No.
Okay. You ever run into him
I
at
never
any
did.
events there? He
I
was
didn't.
I escorted Neil Armstrong on his last visit to Kennedy Space Center.
Did you?
Him and Bob Crippen, yeah. So
what was that like?
it was pretty amazing because it was the shuttle program had ended, but had the vehicles in the hangars making them safe so they could take them and put them on public display and that. And so we were still working on them. And I got a call and says, hey, we got a couple of gentlemen that are, we've given permission to come to the orbiter processing facility. They're escorting a bunch of Navy admirals and captains that they worked with when they were in the Navy. And we would like you to escort them around and help answer questions and stuff like that. And I said, well, it depends. Who are these two guys? And they said, Neil Armstrong and Bob Crippen. And I said, yes, I could work with those two guys. And I'd worked with Crippen a lot from STS-1 and his other flights and when he was center director and that. So Crippen and I knew each other well. And that, but yeah, and I'd met Armstrong before, but yeah, when they came in there, it was just amazing to follow these two men and know what they had accomplished and how much all of these high-ranking military officers were just in awe of what these gentlemen were explaining to them and talking about our space program. And that, just to sit back and, you know, very few things I had to answer for them, you know, because they pretty much knew what they wanted to talk about.
Oh,
And
that's
it was just
interesting.
and then Mr. Armstrong passed away a few months after that. So
Did he really?
yes.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so yeah,
Of a botched medical
Yeah.
procedure on his pacemaker, by the way.
yeah.
That's
But
very sad.
just to stand behind them and watch them as they were explaining to a lot of people that they really respected in their military career.
Armstrong ever say anything about retiring the shuttle?
No, he
Yet,
didn't mention
pro or
that.
cons?
Yeah, no, he didn't. So, but then I didn't see him with that type of event, you know.
Mhm.
So
Well, very interesting there. Tangent off of Chuck Yeager there. I should have I should have gone that. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing here, Marty. Um, well, we're going to go on with a little bit of space history that was made over the weekend. Some of you know that a probe intended for Venus 53 years ago never made it to Venus, never made it out of Earth orbit. Cosmos 482 was a Venera, would have been called Venera 9 had it landed. Look at the populated areas it went over on its last three orbits, and the yellow is where it got dumped into, luckily, into the Indian Ocean. And here's,
So it finally left Earth orbit.
yeah, finally did leave Earth orbit. That's what the thing looked like. You mostly saw the landing vehicle on the left, but this is the whole thing that was in orbit, and quite a interesting scenario where you had something to survive the 30-mile thick atmosphere of Venus and going through the 7-mile atmosphere of the Earth, basically. Certainly it survived that and is at the bottom of the Indian Ocean somewhere. So thought we'd let you know about that. And also on this date, 2 years ago, the Webb telescope had a shakedown, and at the first press conference 2 years ago, they showed these stunning before and after pictures of the Spitzer telescope, a special telescope, and what the Webb is looking at, the same area there, with 18 segments of making up one mirror, each segment bigger than the Spitzer or the Hubble for that matter. So. Got a birthday today, and that birthday is Mr. Box Johnson, Gregory Johnson. Gregory Harold Johnson was born 63 years ago, May 12th, 1962, in South Ruislip, Middlesex, United Kingdom. South Ruislip, Middlesex there. You know where that's at? Robert Law, bet you do. But he was raised in Fairborn, Ohio, and Traverse City, Michigan. So Bill Whiting, he's a Michigander, he's a Buckeye, and he's born in the UK. So quite a guy. Do you guys meet him? You ever met Greg? You did.
Oh yeah, yep. So yeah.
And I didn't put
Yeah,
those
I've met him.
pictures in. I didn't take time to get those
Always
pictures.
smiling and
Oh,
always
great
had
sense of humor.
always had some good questions for you when he came on the floor to do CEIT. So
He was in Operation Desert Storm in 1990, 34 missions, Air Force. The origination, he said himself that the name Box Johnson came from his tour in Desert Storm. In 1990, he incurred a back injury that led him, there he is, that took him back to the States with a back injury. He put all his belongings in a box and then was sent back to the States. The box was left in the barracks. It became a reminder to all his fellow soldiers about how he was at home. So they wrote Box Johnson on the side of the box, and the name stuck as his nickname in 1990. So high school was Fairborn, Ohio. All right. And, he was a pilot on 2 shuttle missions, 123, and then 134, the final flight of Endeavour. So certainly would have been a commander of a shuttle had the program continued going on. So there he is, and we'd love to see him out at the Space Center telling his story there. Yep, we got to count him as one of the 25 Ohio knots there. Okay, Buckeye knots, Ohio knots, whatever. Take that, you Michiganders. Although they got some good ones there, particularly Jack Lausma and
Jim McDivitt.
Jack Lausman. I was thinking Roger Chaffee from Grand Rapids, Jim McDivitt's from
Jackson.
Jackson.
So
okay.
is Al Warden.
Oh, really? They're both from Jackson.
Yeah, they're
huh?
both from Jackson, Michigan.
All right. Okay. Rest of the birthdays. Oh, I had it backwards there. See, what a day I've had. 2 meetings and these guys show up, and Marty. And I'm so happy to have you back, Marty, really. He did a great job, but there's nothing like seeing his smiling face here every day. So, shuttles of the month of May. And 11 beautiful shuttles, 2, 4, 6, actually 10 of them. Terry, I left my notes over on the table. Oddly, Columbia nor Challenger, the two we lost, flew in the month of May. But boy, there's some good shuttles there. We're going to talk about STS-125 here in a minute.
Yeah, maiden flight of Endeavor.
Yeah.
In May.
What was a maiden flight, particularly Endeavor, the replacement of Challenger?
Yeah,
like?
that's it. The second one.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it was. We were glad that they decided to go ahead and fund Endeavor and building it, and it came out not the lightest one in the fleet, but the next to the lightest one. But yeah, it was a great ship to work on, a great ship to process, and that. So
But that maiden flight, the first time you fly it, brand new. Did it smell like a new car inside? With the
smelled like a new airplane inside.
new spaceship smell, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, hadn't been exposed to space yet. So
a couple firsts with 49.
Yeah.
I know you could share those.
I forget what the first were with 49.
Well, the first parachute on the landing.
Oh, okay.
Was the first,
Yeah, well, it was the first orbiter built with the chute. Atlantis was the first one retrofitted with a chute, but Endeavor was the first one to use a chute.
And and why did they have a chute?
Okay, well, that was one of the things that the astronauts wanted after the Challenger incident. We had a lot of issues with slowing the orbiter down. It was hard on brakes, hard on tires and that. So one of the fixes they want, being military pilots, a lot of our fighter aircraft have drag chutes and that. So they wanted a drag chute. And like I said, Endeavor was the only one manufactured with the drag chute. The others were retrofitted with it.
Mitch, you got a question or comment? Go ahead there.
So when the vehicle was originally built, they didn't anticipate, they didn't expect to use this as a device to slow it?
No, it wasn't planned. A lot of things were to keep this vehicle as light as possible. So I don't know in the original design days, were there's one of the things that they were looking at was maybe a drag chute, and they just said no because of weight and that. But, in the earlier days, it was never discussed in the processing facility. But, I didn't go to the meetings where they discussed that type of thing. But that was one of the modifications we did to make it safer. Through the entire program, even for the last flight, we were still doing modifications to make the orbiter safer.
Well, 1992, this was the first flight for new administrator Dan Golden.
Okay.
And Dan had a long tenure, I think the longest tenure of 9 years as NASA administrator.
Yeah.
And on that crew was Bruce Melnick, and he told me this story, Bruce did, Brandon Steen and Chilton, commander and pilot. Of course, and Kathy Thornton was on there, Akers, Hebe, and Thowett. And Bruce Melnick tells the tale to me that Dan Golden had a meeting with all of them, but a couple of the astronauts weren't there, maybe Kathy and one of the other ones, and said, this is my first shuttle launch. Don't screw it up. Don't do anything crazy. Don't do, just by the book. All right. So what'd they do? Bruce said, the first and only 3-person EVA to rescue
only
the
ever.
Intel.
Russian or
Yeah, right.
U.S.
Yeah.
Yes, or China.
So Golden, he said, just had to be having fits, when they were trying to plan this and all. The capture didn't work out right with the arm, and a couple EVAs to try to solve that, so they did that.
And it didn't work, and the crew, when they came in after the second attempt in that, and they said, well, we need to put a third person out there, because that person can hold the thing from rotate, because it would rotate and bump away from them. And they said, and NASA said, absolutely not. We will not put 3 out. Go ahead and have your meal, get your rest. We'll talk about it in the morning. And Mission Control talked about it all night. And the next morning when the astronauts woke up, they said, suit 3. So they went out on the one and only 3-man spacewalk.
I'd like to see them in the exit chamber, all piled in there with the 3 of them.
But it worked when they went
worked
out,
great.
and what they had thought was the only way to do it, they did it, and it worked. So, now a story about that: I was in the OPF on a Saturday, and I was going by the operations desk, and this guy stopped me and says, "Hey," he says, "where'd you get that hat?" And I was wearing an Endeavor hat. And he goes, and I said, "Oh, Space Shirts right down the road." I said, "One of our engineers owns the store, and he makes these and that." And I said, "All you got to do is go down there this afternoon, and you can get one, if you get there before he closes." And he says, "Well, I can't get there." I said, "Well, how'd you get to work?" He says, "I flew in a T-38. I said, "Well, who are you?" And he points up to the mission patch. He says, "See that, Tom Akers? That's me." And I said, "All right." So I took him up to my office. I said, "Okay." And I asked him what color hat and what color embroidery and that kind of stuff he wanted. And he wanted the royal blue hats and that. But he says, "Okay." I said, "I'll get the hats. I'll get my price on them, which will save you money. I'll leave them right here on the desk. Next time you fly in your T-38, just come up here and get them." So he was real happy. So the crew was wearing the hats I got for him. So
That's awesome. I love incognito astronauts.
Yes,
It can
yeah.
be so much fun.
Yeah.
And like those of you who came to Shuttle Fest, I mentioned in our meeting, 3 days with 4 astronauts, never did any of them wear their blue coverall suit.
no.
They
And
all-
I'd tell them if they wanted to come to the OPF when they're not on a task, but if they want to come and talk to the people because they wanted to. And I said, just show up in regular clothes. Don't wear your blue flight suit because then you'll get all the autograph seekers and this and that, and you'll get hounded. I said, but otherwise, check in with the operations desk or with me, and you can walk around and talk to people and ask them questions. So
Well, Mitch, I thought, we had Eileen Collins. Who did we have?
So we had Don Thomas and Joe
Tanner.
Tanner and Mark
Grunsfeld.
Grunsfeld
Yeah.
or John Grunsfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew a kid named Mark Grunsfeld.
And none of them ever wore a blue suit.
No, they
The whole
didn't.
weekend.
No.
And
no,
what'd you think about that?
It was so I sat next to, as far as I'm sitting from Terry right now, next to Joe Tanner, the first evening, which was sort of the cocktail get together that materialized at the hotel, and just talked about his flights and talked about his experience, and it was a great opportunity to just have a beer and talk to these people.
did he give you his Colorado address?
I know where he lives in Colorado because he's also on the west. He lives in Western Colorado, so do I.
Yeah, he keeps asking me when am I going to stop by.
Okay.
Because my son was stationed in Colorado.
Yeah.
Springs,
Okay,
So,
so it's about from Colorado Springs. He's about 280 miles
Yeah.
west.
yeah, he said he's west of there.
Yeah.
He said stop up and see.
It's beautiful country.
Yeah, Joe Tanner's good people
He's
for
in
sure.
Ridgeway,
yeah.
Colorado.
He's down to earth people too.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun.
He'd
and
always
very
show up to the OPF and go, "Where in the hell's Terry White?"
good. Is that right? He walked up to Marty and I when I parked our trailer and said, "Hey, I hear that museum's a pretty good place," and stood out there with his knapsack and
Yep.
before he went in the hotel. A good guy, Joe Tanner. Hope you get to spend some time with him. Marty's got a question or two there.
Okay, we now have 2 questions. First question from Doug Forrest. Were the retrofitted drag chutes fitted to the orbiters at KSC, Palmdale, or elsewhere?
Okay, Atlantis was at KSC. I forget where Discovery and Columbia were, but Atlantis was at KSC, and I think the other 2 were KSC too. But we would have done them at Palmdale if they were scheduled for a major mod period, where we would take an orbiter offline for 2 years to go do upgrades and everything to it. So we'd take it back to Palmdale for that work to be done. But otherwise, we just have to extend the flow to fit everything in the flow. So.
And we have a second question from Michael Bruno. Is it the same model chute used for the SRBs?
No, it is not. It was-
Yeah, SRBs, those chutes are pretty beefy.
yeah. It's a beefy chute, but it was designed for the orbiter. It's a 12-inch mortar that fires it out, and the door is jettisoned onto the runway, and that's we don't reuse it, though. I picked them up off the runway and they've been in pristine condition. You couldn't tell it had just hit the concrete, but no, we never reflew a drag chute.
We've got one of those doors. It's
Yep.
been bounced a few times and
Yep.
got scuff marks on it there. Hey, Daniel DeYoung. He's on there talking to us from Kiev. Hey, buddy. Great to see our airplane pilot there, and hope things work out with Ukraine there. He's married to a Ukrainian. Dave Babcock's got a question, Marty.
Oh, I was writing names down, sorry. How long did it take to implement the modifications to the shuttles? And he enjoyed meeting you at Shuttlefest.
Okay, enjoyed meeting him too. And I didn't track the length of time because it had to fit within the flow. In other words, from landing to roll out to the VAB, we called it a flow, but we had a certain period of time. So I don't recall exactly how long it took us to do the retrofit.
Did they do that retrofit at KSC or Palmdale is another question.
Well, that's what I just answered a second
Oh.
ago. But Atlantis we did
Sorry.
here, and I didn't track when we did. I just know that Atlantis was the first one to get done, and it was done here.
Mm-hmm. Now, it was all to cool the brakes on those when they were stopping.
It was to save the brakes, yes. So you didn't
Yeah.
have to brake as hard, and also it was tough on the tires. You know,
And who landed the space shuttle more accurately than any commander?
they're not allowed to say that. There was a little bit of a competition, and NASA squelched that. There was a competition between Air Force pilot and Navy pilot who hit the spot on the runway the closest, and NASA squelched that.
But you're not getting a paycheck anymore, so you can tell us who.
I don't recall who had the best.
But we've always heard Eileen Collins.
It could be. I think I read that recently that she had the best. But
How about you, Mitch?
I'm not familiar with it at all. I couldn't venture a guess.
Now, Mitch's manned space is true to the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, ASCP,
Skylab,
and Skylab in there.
That's
so-
why it's great to be here with Terry. I learned the volumes of information.
You're leaving the shuttle to us.
I am
Our
leaving the
website
shuttle to
there,
you.
'cause
I'm not going to.
you know we ride the shuttle wave big
Well,
time.
and the viewers here are too
Well,
smart
Mark,
for me
you
to
go-
PS my way through
yeah,
that.
you can go out to the runway and walk down and see all because they paint the STS number on the spot on the runway.
That's
Okay.
still out there now.
Still out there.
Yeah, but you don't know where the mark is for each one, or it's the same mark.
It's got the STS number where it was. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But where were they shooting for? I'm saying.
I don't know.
Yeah, in there.
But they only get one shot.
Rocket Lady Elizabeth is watching. Thank you. She's enjoying the dialogue here. Very, very good. Let's continue here with another shuttle event that happened. We were talked about their STS-125 was launched April 11th, 16 years ago, on 2009. May 11th, Atlantis, its 30th flight on the 5th and final Hubble service mission. And I was so busy, I haven't heard a lot of John Grunsfeld's talks, so I don't know if he addressed this issue. But Terry, I think I looked it up, and there's about over a dozen times that there were two shuttles on each pad. But this is a rare one.
There was times when we had a shuttle at each pad. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yep, 2 shuttles out there. Yes, and this one happened to be launching to go to repair Hubble, and after the Columbia incident, they wanted to not go back to Hubble because they had no way of rescuing the crew. If we had an incident like Columbia had on all the space station flights, they could stay on station until we could get a vehicle up there to bring them back, or the Russians could bring them back in their capsules. But so they had a rescue vehicle, and it was Endeavor was out at the pad at Pad B, and
Here's
yeah,
the
yeah, and Atlantis was at Pad A. So and they called it STS 400, which was the rescue vehicle.
and here's the pilot,
Yep, there's their crew
the
patch.
St. Bernard pilot there.
Yeah.
Hubble Rescue Team, Foreman, Gorey, Johnson, and Benkin. Okay. So I'm not sure if that's Box Johnson as the pilot. We tried to look that up, and Bob Benkin is, commander and pilot, and then Foreman and Gorey were space workers. Spacewalkers.
But that never flew because we didn't have to go rescue. But also, 400 got canceled because they had to take it and process it for flight. So they created STS-401, which was Discovery to come out for the rescue vehicle.
Oh, so they swapped two out there.
But before that happened, STS-125 was delayed even more. So they got to fly the flight, come back, and they went back to STS-400 and switched the Endeavour back to flying that. So there was a switch and a switch within the switch.
Here's why: where the Hubble telescope was in a different inclination than the ISS, so the ISS couldn't be used as a safe haven if some problem they could have got up there in there. So, but they had patches. They have, I've not seen these patches in my own hands yet. So
Neither have I.
I'm assuming they're pretty rare. But Atlantis is 125. Endeavour was the original rescue on there. And Marty, we talked to an astronaut who was going to fly. The Atlantis, one of the Atlantis astronauts, okay, said that in between, let's see, who would that been? In between the behind all of the walls, Terry.
Okay.
That was Good. I think that was astronaut Good, Marty, space worker, who said the weirdest thing he has signed is these cliff bars. And Marty took him out there, one to sign. And why were the cliff bars there, Marty?
I forget the whole story, but I know he had a Cliff Bar in his meal packs.
He claims that they put cliff bars behind the walls of the shuttle in case they had to stay up there longer, and it would be a food source for them.
Could they have stashed it in? You mean the crew stashed it in there unbeknownst to NASA, or it was just a plan to put additional energy bars in one of the compartments, one of the lockers?
It went in the lockers. He said it was behind the walls.
Well,
That the walls of the shuttle had cliff bars in there in case
well, that was
for all of them. I mean, talking
Yeah.
like 100 of them or something
Yeah.
like that.
I didn't hear about that one. I mean, I heard
Yeah.
about other things that was carried up that wasn't right.
That's Good's first
a
name.
lot of their, not a lot, but much of their food was commercially available products like that, but they covered over the name of Cliff and that. They would put a label over it that had a NASA part on it. But they would carry up the same type of thing that you would go buy off the shelf, but something like this, it has to be the bars that creates very little crumbs. That's why there was no bread in space except all the way back to Gemini 3. The
That's
sandwich,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it created a bunch of crumbs. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I never heard about that. I heard about Playboy centerfolds in some of the lockers when the astronauts got to space and they opened up the locker. There's a centerfold in there. That happened in the Apollo days.
Yeah.
So,
Apollo 12 comes to mind.
yeah.
How about the beep beep Apollo 14?
Yeah.
Those famous
patches.
patches coming out everywhere. The
Right.
Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote. Hello, Rebecca Vicnar. Your dad's doing us proud today. She's got her hands full of kids today. And congratulations on graduating. Your dad and mom pretty proud of that, Rebecca, getting your degree. Tommy UCX says the movie The Dream is Alive shows Hank Hartsfeld hitting the black marks on the runway at Edwards right in the middle. All right. And my daughter Jessica is watching with my granddaughters. Hello, McKinley and Macy. And Carlton Bailey said he saw a tire blowout on one landing pre-drag shoot.
Yep.
So
I think that was a Discover main landing gear tire.
really, you were at that same landing? Was it night or
No.
day landing?
No, I wasn't at that landing. So
Yeah. Yeah, quite a lot of things that go into us, like you're talking about. Wow, really? They hid some food bars, up there, just in case they were stranded for more than a month or a couple weeks or something like that. So this is where I say, thinking about going to Mars. All right, they're not addressing the food. how are we gonna eat?
They're going to have to grow their own food. Or
Yes.
they're going to have to go into suspended animation. The trip is that long. How are you going to feed them? What are you going to do with all the waste they create and that?
Yeah.
So, all those things have to be planned out. But yeah, so
Yeah, they carry, I know like on Skylab, they carried like 2,100 pounds of food for 3 crewmen for 20, well, on the first
A
mission.
ton of food.
Literally, yeah, they carried over 2,000 pounds of food. And it cost like $26 a day to feed each of them. So figure about what, $80, $90.
Tom Celentano, thanks for watching. He thinks 51D is the one that blew out the tire. Or maybe he's talking about Hank Hartsfeld there. Mitch, why was Apollo 10 the only manned Saturn V to launch from Pad B?
So it was, Terry and I were talking earlier. Some of these questions you'd love if you could find them out before the show. I know it was the only Saturn V. I don't know why, because of course they launched the Saturn 1Bs from there. I'm not sure why it was. They only used it the one time for the Saturn V.
Well, logistics probably, and
there may have been some issues with the pad from Apollo 9 that they just didn't get squared away in that before, Apollo 10 was ready to go. So
Well, and I think when 10 used B, it was brand new. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the first time, obviously, and
first time anything had been launched
right.
off.
That's
of it.
right.
and I'm counting 9 missions launched off the pads in 2 years.
Yeah.
All right. The cadence of the Apollo program was incredible
Yeah.
compared to Artemis, okay, which there is no cadence, okay.
Yes.
But I mean, my God, just from April 1970, the shakedown of the Apollo in lunar orbit,
Yeah.
to the landing. I mean, and then 6 landings in 3 years. Amazing. But we're going to segue off this Apollo stuff and shuttle stuff here, as we hope that you all are enjoying today's show. I had this is sort of the program I was throwing together before I knew Mitch was going to be here, but didn't know how long he was going to stay. And then Terry showed up for our meeting today. But there's the Hubble telescope there, 35 years later, still incredibly one of the most amazing machines ever created by mankind. And it is a common household word,
Yes.
household name, the Hubble telescope.
And one of the greatest challenges for the astronauts to do on orbit repair.
Yeah.
Look at how many times they went back and fixed it, including the last time there was things that were never designed to be changed in space, and they changed them. So
It was fun talking to Joe Tanner, who alluded to the fact that he goes, I've got quite an expensive thing in my garage that I took off the Hubble that I can't tell you about. And I'm like, what are you talking to me like that for? And I go, what can you tell me? He says, well, I may have taken a washer or a few nuts and bolts off of it and stuck it in my pocket. And maybe those are in my tool chest at home,
Yeah.
You don't think about that, but you're up there next to the Hubble, you're taking pieces, parts, clipping off some wires. Just think I'll take that home with me. Marty, you got a comment?
Yeah, Apollo 11 was preparations were being worked on Pad 39A at the time. It was scheduling Apollo 10, and Pad B had to be called all up testing. So those are the 2 reasons.
okay, that makes sense.
Cliff Watson saying he saw Terry White in a movie about Atlantis on his final journey, and that you looked a little sad walking along Atlantis.
Oh, when we're coming back from the landing strip?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I knew I was getting laid off the next day, and it was the end of a program that was working very well. The orbiters were coming back in great shape. Basically it was change the tires and stick in the new payload and let's go fly again. But yeah. So, and it was a long day, and then, a lot more people chose to walk back from the runway. Most people rode back, and really only the people responsible for moving the vehicle and a few others walked back with it from the runway. But that day, a bunch of people walked back with it.
Included in that was Mike Chinelli. Chachi was part of that group, and I've been talking to him. You might be wondering, we had him on once a month. Mike Chinelli's over the Lessons Learned program of NASA and orchestrated the Remembrance out there at Kennedy Space Center
Okay.
by Atlantis. And he's just taking care of some family members right now, and he'll be back. But hope you're watching today, Chachi. I'll give you a call. So Cliff's saying he saw this special last night about it, so didn't give us the name of it there, but he's down in Australia. So
I'm wondering, Terry, did you walk out with the vehicle also? So when it was on its way to the launch pad, did you actually accompany it as
I
well?
walked it out of the orbiter processing facility over to the VAB.
Oh,
All right, and in there to go vertical on that. I did not walk it to go out to the pad, even though I could have ridden on the crawler, but I had other things to do. So, yeah.
all right. Well, we love remembering all these things about the shuttle, but like I said, I was going to do another little program, do some Stargazer Mark, of course. It's Monday, and part of our STEAM education program in outreach is educating you all about what's in your backyard. You're not going to see a black hole in your backyard, but on May 12th, 2022, 3 years ago, this was our only concepts of black holes in this artist's image, but scientists in collaboration with 8 synchronized radio telescopes around the world figured out that there was a black hole in the center of our Milky Way galaxy, and there's the center of it there, which, by the way, we'd be out here in this arm over here, about this far away. Oh, there's our solar system right there. Yeah, our solar system is right there. This is 100 light years across, okay? And this is the image taken, the first picture of a black hole, 8 telescopes around the world synchronized to show the event horizon of the Milky Way's black hole called Sagittarius A, and it's in the constellation Sagittarius in the summertime. And so this was an astounding discovery back in the day. And what you're seeing, the black hole's in the middle, it doesn't emit light, but everything around it that's being sucked in by energy is being torn apart, and emitting light is energy. So this was quite groundbreaking just 3 years ago. And think of how we know so many more things about that now. And so, to talk like an astronomer, the moon's 14 days old. So, Marty, what does that mean?
Got a full moon.
A lot of moonlight tonight. That's right. And like my daughter Jessie says, it's the flower moon tonight. And that the full moon's of 2025. It's called the flower moon. The Native Americans named different phases or different full moons after different things happening on Earth. So the flower moon is pretty much everybody in May calling it the flower moon, you know. And we live here in Florida, Flora for flowers. And as hot as it is here and so forth, it's amazing. There are an incredible amount of beautiful flowers everywhere all over Florida at all times of the year. So so the next moon we'll have is the strawberry moon of June. But our strawberry season is April. We've already eaten our belly full of strawberries here, haven't we? So those Indians were not in Florida calling the June moon strawberry moon up there. So
and it definitely wasn't like it's been today, where it's been pouring for the last 3 days
pouring
here.
down rain.
It's
For the
amazing.
last few days indeed. So get out and get you some moonshine. Like I say, the only kind of moonshine that is safe to get all you want. And when you look at that full moon, the circle is about where Apollo 11 landed, famously. Very easy to see. One thing I always look at, of course, no one can watch anything with me and have some astronomy in there, or I'll have a comment about it. Every time I see the moon in anything on TV, I say the moon's correct or it's not correct. Lots of times they'll use the Apollo 10 moon where everything's tilted a quarter way around. You look at this oval in the upper right, that is MarQ. That is where the who landed there? Not Intuitive Machines. Theirs flipped over down here at the South Pole, but one of the companies landed up there in MarQ. But you look for that oval. If it's up there in the upper right-hand corner, then everything's right. And of course, with a full moon, you can easily see where the other 5 landing sites are. The first 3 across the equator to make it easy. Then Apollo 15 went way up at Hadley Rill. 17, the last one up there in the upper right. And 16, they went kind of an equatorial one. They thought they were landing where there were a lot of volcanoes, but they got fooled. They weren't volcanoes there. But they did get this ray. See that ray's coming out of Tycho crater that impacted maybe 100 million years ago or 50 million years ago. The dinosaurs may have saw that impact the moon. But 16 landed where one of those white rays has flopped material out like 700 miles there, and they harvested some of that. Mark Usiak provided this picture of the full moon that you're going to be seeing rising right after sunset. The red is caused by the Earth's atmosphere, all right? And so the more smoke in the atmosphere from forest fires or a volcano, the more the reddish it is when it's low at the horizon. It also can look squished up, an optical illusion there, your full moon. But something about the moon, that you might see this time of year is a ring around the moon. As we have a lot of inversion layers of warm and cold air, particularly all you, my friends up in the Illinois, Michigan area, New England area, you're likely to see a ring around the moon. And this ring is an exact 22.5 degrees on either side, okay? 45 degrees from side to side. Native Americans used to say, count the stars inside the ring, and that's how many days till it rains. Any of you fishermen or anything like that have any?
The lunar halo, I know it's something, it usually portends a change in weather.
Yeah. But it has names to it, and my friend Ronnie Sherrill on a moonrise put on there, you've got the moon dogs, like sun dogs, bright spots on the either right, you got a tangent halo, and then you got a real faint outer halo up there. And what is scientifically fascinating about this ring is it's caused by ice crystals that are all the same size. They're in fact rectangular and more of a rectangle. And that's why they make this exact, it's always 22.5 degrees diameter or 45 degrees from side to side on there. So keep your eye open for some lunar halos up there. And it's fleeting. You might see it and then 20 minutes later it's gone. As the clouds are moving around.
But
there.
that means we're going to get some rain, according to the Indians?
Yes, that's right. And we're grateful for the rain we've been getting here. You and your wife farmed some fruits and stuff.
Yeah.
We needed rain big time.
Yeah, because we'd got less than 2 inches of rain since January 1st until 3 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm in Central Florida. We got 7 inches last night.
Yeah, well,
It
we got
it dumped.
1 inch at my
Yeah.
house last night. But
Yeah. Usually not a problem deeper into summer as we have these
Right.
afternoon rainstorms that keep everything nice and green. But we've really had a dearth of rain here lately and grateful for it.
Yeah, the fish quit walking to the house and ask them for some water.
Yeah, right.
Rocket Lady Elizabeth, she helped me out. Firefly was the private company that landed there
Okay.
at the Oval up there. And Marty, let's see. Does anyone know? Michael Bruno's asking, does anyone know if any of the Apollo landers had some significant sideways velocity during landing? Marty, I think you can answer that.
No, I
Or
can't.
can you?
He sent it up there. He wasn't in
No,
there.
I do know, looking at the 15, kind of slid a little bit and buried one of its pads, I think.
And they damaged the engine bell on that landing. He actually, the way the vehicle settled, it crushed part of the engine bell.
It was designed that way, though, wasn't it, Marty?
Well, it was designed, yeah. It did.
It is crushable. I misunderstood the question. He's asking if did the lunar landers land translation wise, and they all did.
Yeah,
They didn't come straight down.
right. They did this.
It was called translation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
they
I think
all-
he was asking, did they go sideways as well as?
Yeah, that's translation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little bit. I saw a beautiful Apollo 11 movie of it landing, and they took it through the canyons of Manhattan, and it's going more sideways than you think. It didn't go like this and then come straight down.
Right.
It was always a sideways motion. Then they leveled it off and went down. So, but you listened to them all landing, and I've done it dozens of times.
Right. And Marty, and they did it. The engine was out in front, right, so that they could change the velocity, right, as it's coming down. The engine is actually facing forward, right, so that or was it facing back?
Facing down. Yeah, when it pitched over, yeah, it's facing forward. By the time they come down towards landing, when they're really starting translation, then the engine's basically pointing down.
So as it departed the command module, it was going though sideways.
Well, it was going. I call it legs first.
That's what I'm calling it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Legs first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they finally pitch over. I forget
Right.
what elevation. I think like 3,000 feet. I think.
Yeah, the pitch over is always exciting,
Yeah.
but they're still going through lateral motion, even though they're pitched over there. They're not going straight down. Well, we're being lunatics here, talking a little bit about the moon, and here's a wonderful, rare view where the moon passes in front of a satellite, or a Earth Resources satellite in this case. Sometimes they're weather satellites. There used to be a live TV program that would show from one of the satellites, one of the sat stations back in the big dish days, you know, and you'd see this once in a while happen. But as you see, it's looking at the back side. So this would be happening new moon to California up there. There's the Baja Peninsula. Our peninsula is a little bit covered up there. But this is the back side of the moon, that the first thing you notice is there's no dark areas or Maria. Just that one in the upper left at the 11 o'clock area. That is the Moscow Sea, because taken by the first Russian spacecraft to see the backside. So quickly, why are the moon sides so different? As you have a near side and you have a far side. There is no real dark side of the moon. As you see, this would be the dark side of the moon is facing Earth, so that would be new moon to us. So why is it so different? We really don't know, though China has gone to the backside with a rover and brought back some very interesting data that shows that the backside of the moon doesn't have as much water content as the front side does. Now, this is molecular hydrogen, not like water laying there on the ground or frozen on the ground. Here's the classic view on the left of what we see the moon, but this is the detailed topographical that many satellites combined, including our Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter that's been operating 12 years, has done there. And so the front side, the dark areas, were seas of lava that was bubbling like a 10 weight oil, not like a 30 weight or 40 weight oil, or like molasses thick. This would be a thinner type of liquid that nonetheless came from the moon's molten core and was pushed out, some by meteor impacts. As you can see, many of these areas resemble a crater that has been filled up, such is the case with all of them, really. But it didn't happen on the backside, and we really don't know why. This above your head, Mitch, is the largest, called the Aiken. Right above Terry's head, you just see that light impression there. That was a whole asteroid that hit and made one of the largest impact craters in the solar system. But this little rover on the moon, U-2, is still working 7 years later. It's not moving, but it's still surviving the 12 days of 250 below zero, and then 14 days of It's 14 days of darkness, 14 days of daylight. But there's the little rover that's still, though stationary, its telescope's still working among a couple other scientific experiments. So China has put a rover on the back side of the moon. They put several on the front side of the moon. We've never put a rover on except a crewed rover with 2 seats for humans in it, a car. We put a car on the moon, but we've not put an autonomous rover. We put 5 of them on Mars. So, I don't know why we ignored that part of technology which is, just make some cheap robots and send them to the moon with wheels on them.
But they did use cheap robots to prepare for the manned landings, right? And you think a surveyor.
Surveyor, yep. But they didn't move it all on there. So anyway, why is the backside and the front side of the moon different? I don't know, but tell your young minds, my granddaughters, McKinley and Macy, become lunar engineers, lunar scientists, and figure all that out for us. There's so many things that we really don't know about. And guys, that was part of my coming of age, maybe, was, you think when you're taught in school that what you're being taught is everything there is to know about that subject. Like when and then like you're going like, you learn later, like, no, we're still learning, and so to keep your mind busy and keep learning all the time up there.
Stay curious.
Stay curious. Well, home stretch of our show here. Let's show some more lunacy here. Mitch, this is your bailiwick here. You and some of your friends want to create a July 20th lunar landing day or moon day as a federal holiday. Tell us why and how you're getting along with that.
So it's an opportunity to celebrate not just the 400,000 people that were involved in what's, certainly in my estimation, continues to be man's greatest adventure. But it's also an opportunity to inspire the next generation, to promote STEM education, to promote museums like this. And by the way, since I was here last, I've been in touch with Chris Callie, and Chris is going to allow us to use his artwork and help in any way that we, these printed materials that we're creating. He's told us that we'd be able to use his artwork there. So that's nice. He's, of course, has signed off on the holiday.
That's like Picasso saying you can use his Starry Night for whatever.
Well, and also his dad's work.
Okay.
Paul
thank you,
Callie.
Chris.
So yes, thank you indeed. And I was asking Terry. I know Terry, your dad worked in the Apollo program,
right.
And we were talking earlier about the holiday. I wonder if you have a thought about that would be something that you would support.
Sure. Yeah, it's manned flight, so yeah, I definitely support that. So yeah.
Correction, it's crewed flight. You need to get used to that.
Back then it was manned flight.
Yes, it
still.
was.
Now
it
it's
was,
a crewed
but,
flight.
But
so.
you know plenty of female astronauts.
I do. So yeah, some of them I worked side by side with in the OPF before they ever became an astronaut.
And those would be who?
I knew you'd ask that one. So
Kay,
yeah, Kay Hire and
Nikki,
Nick. Yeah,
Nicole Stott.
yeah.
And wasn't Higginbotham also? Joan Higginbotham, was she? Did she work payloads?
I did not work with her in the OPF that I can recall. So yeah.
She only flew once, right? I think.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Actually, Joan Higginbotham did. Yes, in there. So good workers.
Yes,
as good
they were.
astronauts.
Yep. Yeah, Kay used to sit across from me at the morning meetings. So yeah.
She's another one to be easy to get at Shuttle Fest. Nicole's coming.
Yeah.
And so we're excited about the fact that so many astronauts do want to be part of our museum.
There is one other update on the we're going to be in San Diego this summer, and Rod Pyle, who's a name you.
Rod Pyle, editor of Ad Astra.
That's right. So
magazine.
We've been in contact with him. We'll be meeting with him in San Diego. He has voiced his support, and we're hoping that maybe NSS, the National Space Society. I don't know if this fits in, to use your term, into their bailiwick, but he certainly was excited about it, and so we're hoping that maybe their advocacy is a multi-pronged effort, and so if there's some way that NSS can help us promote this as well, that's also in the works.
Yeah, very good. National Space Society, their vehicle quarterly magazine is Ad Astra. And I see that's not probably a problem, but we're proud to support this endeavor with you. And who's the gentleman that's spearheading this?
Bob Slater.
Yeah,
Who,
Bob, give Bob some love.
Yeah, I don't know if Bob is on here today. I didn't know I was going to be on here, so I didn't reach out to him. But yeah, Bob is spearheading the effort, and I put him in touch with Rod Pyle. I got Rod's name from, it's all about getting into people's Rolodexes, right? And so anyway,
there you are with the billboard we have here
Right here in the
at the museum, and that's one of my favorite items on the floor. There is the Grumman 1962 module of a lunar module, 5 legs, 2 docking ports. They didn't think about how we're going to get out of there, and then of course it became 4 legs and a docking port, and then a hatch to walk out of. And in fact, that's the Grumman legacy map or artwork back there with Buzz at Eagle there. You get a good idea of the size of that thing. I always tell people it's 23 feet tall. It's like a 2-story apartment, but the only room you can use is the bathroom.
but first you got to land it.
Yeah, first you got to land it on there. Marty, anything you want to say about as one of the lead electrical engineers on this magnificent flying machine?
Nope, not all pants, sorry.
Okay. But that is one of my favorite artifacts, and though it's in somewhat disrepair, it's still very expensive, and it's in a lot of textbooks there with a lot of important VIPs in suits around it there. So, guys, we got anything over there, Marty? Except my daughters kept telling everybody to like and so forth. Steve Joachim says about the moon, and going back to the moon, why does it look so different? Maybe the gravitational impact pulled the ancient lava towards Earth like the tides of Earth. And I think that is one of my favorite theories too, is that once the moon got locked in step, but it was rotating a little bit faster when this was happening, Steve. Still, there's some sort of a physical anomaly going on here that we don't understand about the moon. That's why we go to explore and understand more about it. So thanks for that input there, Steve, that gravity actually may have pulled it oozing out of there. And so he's staying curious. Well, everybody, thank you guys for being here today. There's a moonshot of mine, a little moonshine over the Atlantic Ocean. Can't go see that tonight, or I'd try to go out there and catch it out there. I love seeing the moon rise over there, the ocean there. And so go out there and enjoy a little bit of moonshine. Hope it's clear where you're at today. Guys, anything else to say? Appreciate it, Mitch.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks,
Oh, your arm there, your hand there, Terry.
It's great to be here with you, Terry.
I enjoyed
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Good. Anything coming up? Terry's going to come back later this month and do another little program for us. Mitch is going to, we'll have to get a remote system up, Marty, so we can bring Mitch in and check out his summer in Colorado. And thank you all for watching today. We make Rocket Lady Elizabeth. She likes how we all team up here together and have a good time talking on our Space Social Hour here every day at 4 o'clock that the American Space Museum is so proud to be doing now for 5 years. We're in our 6th year, Marty and I. 1,300 episodes we're approaching. So And we certainly enjoy it because you all enjoy it out there. So, going to get some guests lined up the rest of the month here. I'm looking over at my calendar. I don't think I wrote anybody down, but you have a suggestion for a topic, please make it so on there. We'll tackle any topic out there, and we appreciate you all watching our warehouse of Stay Curious programming we have on YouTube. Over 900 shows now on YouTube.
If I could just comment, I was watching one the other day, which I now know my fist is 10 degrees if I'm looking. So that was something that was neat.
There you go.
So-
Yes. We always talk about how many degrees something is away
Right.
from something in the sky on there. Lynn Feather says, great episode. Thank you, Lynn. She's drinking the water up there. Where she is, West Virginia?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Well, that makes Julie Clay happy because she's from West Virginia. And and Connie was born in West Virginia.
All right.
So, and what great astronaut was from West Virginia?
John
McBride.
McBride.
Yep, Big John McBride. We miss him. God bless
The
him.
only one from West Virginia.
Yep, and his son, Little John, has become a great supporter of ours. So we could just ramble on and on, as you can tell here, but we got to cut it off by saying thank you all for watching today. We will be back again tomorrow. Hope that you stay curious with us. And we all enjoy doing this because we like doing what, guys? Bridging the space between us.